years.
Right.
And I've dissected life down. That's one of the things I use. I'm a dissector. So
I've noticed that.
I love understanding the micro distinctions of everything.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's just the game that I'm in, which is I just want to be the ultimate growth warrior in everything. So.
I think that's what's so interesting is, I have some people that I would say are mentors, and I've got a great investor that has helped the healthcare company along. But I've noticed that you dissect and you understand so much about so much. And as I've explained, who you are or just talked about our interactions, I'm like, there's just something where he goes so deep into so many different levels that I think that's where the attraction has been. Like, what do you focus on to grow yourself and to grow your business, right? Because there's so many aspects of it. What's the first one that you start with, or is it 10 at one time? And also just what has your journey been like? First of all, to own, 500 companies, I think you told me. I've got so many questions, and just of like homies hanging out by the pool, like how in the world, right? Do you? And you're not 140 yet, I don't think. Maybe you are.
I'm 42.
Okay. Gosh, dang it! You're 2 years older than
me. Did you just hit 40?
Yeah. Well, no, I turned 41 in September.
Yeah. In September, I turned 40.
What day?
24. The 24th.
Okay, on the 19th.
Okay.
So so in business years, you're 140 or 240 or something like that. I think it's about sort of leapfrogging.
Yeah.
Right. Because for me, I'm not a heroin addict like my brother, but I do feel like it stunted my growth a little bit because I wasn't able to, I could have had a couple of bigger exits already, and I made them just, hey, with the theater company, hey, just build a theater for me and I'll be out. I built that whole thing and I basically walked away with nothing. I saved it from negative.
This is not the first time today you've said such things.
Yeah. And so I'm like, man,
there's a pattern.
At some point there needs to be an ROI for my time and energy.
Yeah.
And I want to leave something for my kids, not just with money, but just in an exercise of, if you're going to build, you need to protect it. And
so I can, to kind of answer your question a little bit. You and I come from a very similar background on faith. And there's a lot of culture that comes into that background. But my personal belief is that this world is half-baked and we get to finish creating. We are sent here to be not just the authors of our life, but some people were sent to create. What makes you very extraordinary in your company is that you're a creator, and every creator needs somewhere between 50 and 250 people to support their creation, depending on the size of it. In other words, you need implementers, you need executors, you need people that will say, you built it, now we'll expand it and maintain it. But there's not very many creators out there. So I think part of just that natural attraction is when you meet someone that's a creator, there's a somewhat rare number of them. Not everyone can manage and has the bandwidth for so much. I'm obsessed with having bandwidth for everything. And, so I mean, like if you were to look at my life right now, there's something I'm striving for right now where I'm at, which is my wife gets everything she needs. I get everything she needs. God does. My children do. My immediate family, my extended family, my community, and then strangers. And I measure all these things, and there's a time arbitrage that I need for each one of them for me to look into any one of those categories and know that I had impact. Like last night, you hit the community. You did something to benefit community, and there's some fulfillment that gives you that tells you that you did something right and you did something good. And that goes all across. Your body also has these critical drivers and KPIs of if you don't do these 4 things in these 4 different categories, your nutrition, your exercise, et cetera, then you're going to feel depleted or that you're missing something. You won't be getting the full measure of your creation. And the same thing happens in finance. There are multiple categories, and if you're not growing so for me, years ago, I diagnosed the 15 areas of life that you can measurably know whether you're stronger at every day or weaker. And as I pour into all of them, they've created a really weird journey. And I'm going to take a stab at what my version of that is that may or may not work for you. And the question is, where do you go next once you've had a certain level of achievement? And I think I've mapped out what the ultimate is. And I probably don't even know what it is because there's something after.
Sure.
But it's like most people will work for somebody else. You hardly even know what that was like because you were on your own nearly from the beginning.
Yeah.
But most people got to have a job and they're going to learn something. Either they hate their job or they love the job. 87% hate, 13% love. Those that love are entrepreneurs. They're going to actually be responsible for growing another entrepreneur or creator's dream. And creators need, which are entrepreneurs, need entrepreneurs. So we need these people. Some of them, however, get to the point where like, no matter how much I entrepreneur for you, if I work for you, I will never get where I want to be financially. Even if you're paying me like a rock star,
Right.
which means I either need to go out on my own, but that's not my life calling, or I need to learn to be a professional investor. There are only two options. So if they 401k and IRA, they'll fail because single digit ROIs will never get them there.
Right.
Professional investor means you have to learn how to research companies, invest in companies, or even own companies, even 100% that you don't run, absentee owner status. So they have their education, or they were meant to be a creator and entrepreneur and start something, right? So let's just say that the path is now you're an entrepreneur. The next problem we run into is we get lost in our own creation. We get married to the business. We think that we're the only one that can do everything. We don't trust people. We have issues, and no one's as powerful as we are. And if we know how to do it, why would we let anyone else do it? So we get lost. We grow our companies, but the business owns us.
Yeah.
Until you hit that next level that says, oh, I found my dharma, my way of being out of the business as a shareholder, being in it enough, being responsible for it, and empowering people to grow it. So then what do you do when you get out of your company,
Right.
but you still have the money? Well, then you think, I want another company, but you don't, because that's a rehearsal of the same thing and wasting time. There's always another growth level. The growth level is I need to figure out how to own 10 companies where I never become the operator from the inside out. How do I do that? That's like Musk doing PayPal, and then on exit, learned at this point how to do Neuralink beyond Tesla and rocket building, where he's the CEO, but frankly, other people are building the whole thing.
Yeah.
So then if you own 10 companies and now you have the income of 10 companies and none of them own your life and your time is balanced so that you have family, health, and business, well, then where do you go? For me, and this is where it's different for each of us, because my life will never be about that beach house in the middle of nowhere, off grid, multi-gazille with no responsibility. That I can only do that stuff so long because I'm a creator and my fulfillment comes from creating in balance, which is about 25 to 30 hours a week. Like it's my sweet spot. More than that, don't feel good. Less than that, I feel like I'm off path.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. And so, I want to own 10,000 companies responsibly and at different levels have my impact on them. I acquired 3 this week. And when I say acquire, I should be more responsible. One of them is a partnership with a 40% equity stake. One of them is a 10% consult for equity play. One of them is a true partnership with that one is a 25% partnership. So 3 companies, the right partners. Right now, cumulatively, all of them are producing. I mean, one of them has very billion-dollar potential, and the lift is easy for me. But I've built a system now where instead of me being the builder, I built a system that builds systems.
Yeah.
And so I have this container now, so that allows me to dump the right things into it so that my universe can continue expanding and growing. At the same time, I can pour deeply into my own philanthropy work. So I'm fulfilling that itch, taking the time that I want with my wife and my children so that they never feel neglected in the process, make sure I don't get neglected in the process. Like there's a map for all of it.
That's amazing.
There's a map for all of it. And 20
That's incredible.
Yeah. So there's always another level that will challenge your potential at a higher level.
Right.
And the secret, at least for me, the fastest secret to making the quantum leap is always finding the person that did it, that you feel called to, that feels called to you, and then you make an arrangement, and then they become your leapfrog.
Yeah.
So my leapfrog is never a book. My leapfrog is never an idea. My leapfrog is always a person. I've never found a faster methodology than just taking someone's mastery and then figuring out how to do it as well as quick as possible.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. So right now it's all about it's I think the ultimate end goal for me is, last week I got 7.8 million views on my social. What we're doing this year, we have a game plan over the next 6 months that should make that number 15 million by end of the year. And then that's 15 million a week. But the goal 5 years from now is 50 million, basically a Super Bowl a day, 50 million a day.
Jeez.
As a thought leader And 1 in 8 people on the planet that have that level of mastery across that many fields that could call themselves the entrepreneur's economist that can influence every industry at every level beyond business for sustainable giving and give back and creating a cycle. And I find for most entrepreneurs that if you have that growth energy, one company is meant to become many.
Yeah.
Because you can.
Right. Yeah, and I think it is that it's a leapfrog. You know, there have been some books that have helped out, but it has been individuals who have been there and they've done it. They've grown big companies and they've exited, and it's their time that's been more valuable than their money most of the time, right? Yeah. And shortening that gap, which is the parallel, is the foundation we're trying to teach these kids to. You know, I carried my dad's suicide for 22 years before I found real relief from it. Yeah. And although it didn't really hold me back, it still really held me back. And so I think in the same way for business, it's like, how do you shorten the gap? And yes. for me, right, like, this is my gap, and I'm hoping that, you know, the next person that I help, or my kids or whoever, that I can help them get from here. But I also need, I can't, I'm very good at putting my head down and going, no one's ever going to show up to help me. And so I'm just going to do it. And it's also hard for me to say, like, to ever take or to ask, because that feels so foreign to me. I know. To be like, Kris, can you help me, or can I help you? Or what is that transaction of friendship, or is it transactional? But I think I am to that point in life where it's like, hey, how do I become a better version of myself through our friendship?
Yeah. So it's interesting. Basically what I'm trying to privately build for myself is a time machine. Like, I can't go back, but I can truncate time, because what you talked about was shortening gaps. Yeah. My obsession is to live present in real time. Have you ever had a conversation with someone, then 3 hours later, you're like, oh man, I wish I had said this? Because we reflect back, and it's because we weren't at the level of our playing field potential in the moment to say the thing that could have had impact. Right. You talk to a teenager that says that they're struggling with suicide, and in that moment, you either are prepared to act real time and do something that will be an intervention to help them, or you're going to do your best and fumble, right, and then for weeks beat yourself like, what should I had said that would have really seized the moment. So I'm obsessed with real time, which is, I don't want to spend any of my time being in the past. So part of that is eradicating and understanding and relieving all past trauma. I don't want to live in the future of what might be, because I don't believe there's any power to either of them. All I have is this moment with you right now. It's the only moment that exists. It's the only moment that matters. Right. So if the conversation can't lead to impact, then it didn't get to breathe its highest and best value. Yeah. Life lost.